What's up, guys? Welcome to part 4 and the final set review for Rastakhan's Rumble here. We're going to go over all the cards we have not yet discussed as they have all been revealed. We're starting off with the Warlock spell Demon Bolt, 8 mana, destroy a minion, costs 1 less for each minion you control. So very strong card here in the right deck. Possibly just in all Warlock decks, and we'll talk about that in a minute here. In a Zoo-type deck, we have the Sea Giant of removals here. It's going to compete with Soulfire, but I think Soulfire just always gets played in Zoo. This is a supplement to Soulfire. Soulfire going face is very valuable. So this is interesting because if you have a full board, it just costs 1 mana, and it has the Sea Giant effect in the sense that you start the turn, it's going to look pretty good, and it's going to get even better as you play minions on your turn, right? If you play a couple more 1-drop minions, well, all of a sudden this gets even cheaper than it already was. It's kind of funny, this does combo with the new legendary bat minion, Herrick the Bat. So if you have 9 mana, you can play Herrick the Bat, and it's guaranteed to be 1 mana for the Demon Bolt. This might see play across all Warlock archetypes as sort of a pseudo Siphon Soul. It doesn't take much for this to be the same mana cost as Siphon Soul minus the healing. And because of exactly Void Lord, you can get wide boards with Gul'dan and Void Lord in even control decks. So, very strong card overall. Moshog Enforcer, 8 mana, 2/14 with Taunt and Divine Shield. So we have possibly the best Master Oakheart target here. This guy is interesting because all it really needs is like 1 hand buff to be a pretty formidable foe. Once you get this guy to 4 attack, it is a pretty menacing target outside of a silence. Even if this does get silenced, if you're playing against Priest, well, you're going to have to deal with it because you're kind of 1 Divine Spirit Inner Fire combo from losing the game immediately. So, not the most exciting card, but it might pop up every once in a while in sort of interesting decks. We'll say that, right? Blooded Troll Sapper is a 7 mana 5/8 minion in Warlock. It says, after a friendly minion dies, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero. So, we have a possible finishing card here. If you have a full board and your opponent has a taunt, well, you would normally be able to kill them, but with this, you might be able to kill them, and it might be seen as a one-of in hyper-aggressive decks. It has good stats, honestly, for what it could do, right? Like, you can do upwards of 12 damage, I guess more realistically, 8 to 10 damage the turn you play this, and for it to be a 5/8, it's kind of insane, right? Like, the opportunity here for this to sort of Battlecry deal 10, 5/8 for 7 is a good deal in that sense. So, very interesting card here. I do think this could creep into constructed play. Cragwa the Frog, Shaman Legendary, 4/6 stats for 6. Battlecry, return all spells you played last turn to your hand. So, very interesting card here. A lot to talk about. A few different ways this gets played, honestly. You could try to burn your opponent out with Totemic Smash and Lightning Bolts, play this, and then recast all the face spells for a little bit of a burst over 2 turns. Just watch out for the Overload. Overload holds this card back a little bit, but honestly, the way this gets used probably the most is with exactly cards like Hex and the new Haunting Visions. Haunting Visions just keeps getting better and better the more cards we see from Shaman. You Haunting Visions into Hex. The following turn, you play the Frog, you get back both Haunting Visions and a Hex for subsequent huge threats. A lot of value to be had there. Unstable Mutation, pretty crazy combo with this guy. If you Unstable Mutation for a bunch and then play this the following turn, I guess you fill your hand with a bunch of Unstable Mutation. So, really solid card. Another, little interaction here is just with Healing Rain, right? Healing Rain yourself to full, play this guy the next turn, and then all of a sudden you have a huge health swing again with the Healing Rain or possible Healing Rains, right? So, pretty solid card overall and very strong card overall. Arena Patron is a 5 mana 3/3. That's not good. It has the overkill to summon another Arena Patron. Fortunately, this doesn't have rush or anything, so yeah, it's just pretty terrible. 5 mana 3/3 is not good. Even in Arena, this guy is probably completely terrible. Dragon Maw Scorcher, 5 mana 3/6 dragon, which that alone might be, sort of playable in Dragon Synergy decks, but it has a good Battlecry too. Battlecry Whirlwind here, so this is sort of a neutral Dreadlord. Obviously, Dreadlord is way better. It doesn't affect your own minions. Happens every turn. But this is neutral, and a lot of classes would love to have access to a mid-game Whirlwind play. And because this is also a dragon, and with the existence of the new 2-drop Fire Tree Witch Doctor being such a powerful play in the early game to discover a spell for later, this card will see a lot of play outside of Warrior as well. I think a lot of decks, a lot of classes will be, trying the little dragon packages that they can find. Maybe Twilight Drake makes more appearances with this guy in the Fire Tree Witch Doctor. Again, very big reason to hit up a little bit of a dragon synergy. Former champ, a 5-mana 1/1, but it has the battle cry, summon a 5/5 hot shot. Very similar to a card we've previously seen, Big Time Racketeer, I believe it was called. 6-mana 1/1 that summoned a 6/6 ogre. I think this card is better at 5 mana, a little bit less risky, playing a big dumb idiot on 5 than it is at 6. This is probably not going to see any constructive play, but in Rogue, it is interesting a little bit with the Spirit of the Shark on turn 4. You play this on turn 5, you get 2 5/5s and the 1/1. Maybe you Shadow Step the 1/1 to later play it for cheap and a little bit of tempo there. Who knows? But obviously not amazing. Halazi the Lynx is a 5-mana 3/2 beast. Not good stats, but has the battle cry, fill your hand with 1/1 lynxes that also have rush. So nice reload card here if this is the last guy in your hand. And if you play a 5-mana 3/2, well, you do need to gain the tempo back later, which this will do. This has a lot of synergies, honestly, with the new Spirit we're going to look at in a little bit here. Also with Witch's Cauldron for fun stuff. Definitely going to try that. Toxmogger, obviously, pretty insane. If you have Toxmogger in your hand after playing this, well, you're basically going to assassinate pretty much anything you want for the rest of the game. Quest Hunter, obviously, this is going to build up the quest very quickly, in fact. And it will notably mill you, probably, when you play this, unless you have more than 5 mana. You will draw to full and then mill for the next turn. That's probably not a huge deal, honestly. Tree Speaker, 5-mana 4/4 with the battle cry, transform your treants into 5/5 ancients. So when do you play this? Probably following a turn 4 Soul of the Forest. And if you can manage to hit a couple minions and then next turn trade them in, transform into 5/5s, you're going to be in pretty good shape outside of a mass removal. Is this a win more card? It's possibly a win more card. Is something like Savage War just better? If you're hitting, 3 to 4 minions with your Soul of the Forest, do you really need this? Possibly not. Although I could argue that there are decks that you'll face that gain so much armor that Savage War finishes get harder and harder and to the same extent, because Warrior does have access to cards like Reckless Flurry and Brawl. Well, this thing might get countered regardless, but it is powerful when it works. Notably, a counter to Poison Seeds plus Spreading Plague in the Druid Mirror and Exactly Wild, as long as you have room on the board, right? If you went wide, your opponent comboed you, you have one spot to play this, all your 2/2s become 5/5s, and then they can trade into the Plagues. And if your opponent tries to Plague again, well, you still have 5/4s to finish the next round of Plagues off. So interesting little synergy there in Exactly Druid versus Druid in Wild. Scorch, 4 mana, deal 4 to a minion, and it costs 1 if you played an elemental last turn. This is a mage card, and it's not hard to play elementals in mage. They give you a lot of reasons to play elementals in mage, and this card is very solid and very good. Arena Fanatic, 4 mana 2/3 with the battle cry, give all minions in your hand +1/+1. So I like the design here. This is a card that's been sort of missing in the game for a while at neutral, and Paladin obviously has access to many cards like this, and there are other cards that sort of buff your team on the board in other classes, but at neutral here, this is kind of new, and this is not a constructed powerhouse card by any means. The aggressive decks, play out their hand too quickly for this to be good. Control decks generally don't have that many minions in their hand, even when they have a lot of cards. But for the decks I like to play, it usually involves having a lot of silly stuff in my hand, a lot of minions, and this will see play, at least on my end of the board. Arena Treasure Chest, 4 mana 0/4 with the Death Rattle, draw 2 cards. So it doesn't look like an amazing card on the surface. However, it does say draw 2. Any card that says draw 2, I will contest that you have to look at it a little bit closer. And where would you play this? I think 3 classes possibly, because of the threat of certain cards. You play this in Warrior, your opponent is probably going to give you some life off of it and give you the cards because they don't want this to win a possible Brawl. Even if you didn't have Brawl in your hand, you play this on turn 4, you lose even more tempo, but I think you gain some life, and you at least draw 2 cards. Maybe you draw into the Brawl, right? That could be a reason that they don't kill it. They're fearful that you would draw into a Brawl instead of having it win the Brawl, but I think the threat of it winning the Brawl might have it be killed often enough. In Paladin, this is also interesting because of Exactly Shrink Ray, right? And Tarim. If your opponent leaves this on the board and you play Tarim, they are going to wish they killed it. And if they kill it, you gain some life, and maybe you draw into a card like Tarim or Equality Consecrate. So I do think in Paladin, it might see some play. Also in Priest, because of Interfire combo, if you leave this on the board in the late game, it just has the opportunity to sort of get Divine Spirited. Maybe you go Shield, Spirit, Interfire. How much is that? That's 6, 12, 24. Yeah, 24 is a lot of damage. So again, against exactly Priests, this might get killed and sort of gain some life, draw 2, right? You need to have mass removal in either your deck or your hand. That's what we're looking at. Paladin, Warrior, Priest. They threaten Psychic Scream, Equality, Consecrate, and Brawl. So your opponent probably kills this and gives you some life in the, quote, pseudo life, right? So I do think it is interesting, exactly 3 classes. It is technically a notable cube target. You play this on 4, you cube it on 5, you draw 2 immediately, and then when your cube dies, you have this sort of, I guess, catch of treasure to figure out how to get. Halftime Scavenger, 4 mana, 3/5 with stealth and overkill, gain 3 armor. I do like the design on this card quite a bit. It does look like an arena card at first glance, but upon closer inspection, it's got some stuff going for it. It is stealth, so it does not interact with your opponent's removal. If you hit a 2 health creature, you gain some armor, a little bit of a defensive option here. It does not match up well against a card like Power Creeper. However, it is pretty good with a card like Oaken Summons or even Carnivorous Cube. You play this with Summons, you could possibly upgrade your Jasper Spellstone even further with this. And if you play it with Cube, again, they can't interact with it on turn 4. You trade with it on turn 5. It lives, and then you cube it. And then when your cube dies, you have a couple minions that come out that, again, cannot be interacted with. You have to look at this in Priest just a little bit, again, because of Interfire combo. Not that Stranglethorn Tiger gets played, but this is 1 cheaper than Tiger for technically the same situation. The 5 health is all that matters when you're trying to Interfire combo. So, cool card here. I like that it might creep into constructed play, possibly. Ice Cream Peddler is another 4 mana 3/5 at neutral. This one has the battle cry. If you control a frozen minion, gain 8 armor. Now, 8 armor is no small amount. It's just asking you to jump through hoops to get there. How are we going to have a frozen minion? Well, there's Frozen Crusher, which doesn't seem like much of a deck. I'm not sure what you're doing there. There's the Frost Rider, freeze all your minions, but that's a 7 mana play, and you freeze all your minions, which you don't want to do. And then there's the Glacial Shard, which is a little bit interesting because it's so cheap. Notably, this won't work with Shudderwalk because Glacial Shard cannot freeze your friendly minions, only freezes enemy minions. So while this is both a battle cry and Glacial Shard is both a battle cry, it will not work with Shudderwalk technically. Regenerating Thug, another 4 mana 3/5. At the start of your turn, restore 2 health to this minion. So I do again like the design of these sort of arena cards because yes, they are probably only going to see play in arena, but they're interesting enough to where you can think about them in constructed with applications like Light Warden or Northshire Cleric. This is, again, not the kind of card you want to play in constructed. However, it does match up technically decent against Tar Creeper, one of the only 4 mana 3/5s that can kill a Tar Creeper by itself. You attack the Creeper, it becomes a 4/3/2. Next turn, it becomes a 3/4, and then you can get through the Tar Creeper, and it technically survives. Now, your opponent just needs 1 damage to deal with the Thug after you attack with it, but there are no other 3/5s that can trade with Tar Creeper favorably. 4 mana 3/2 Rumble Tusk Shaker has a death rattle. Summon a 3/2 Rumble Tusk Breaker. Different card, so notably not a power creep on Dread Steed, right? And this is an arena card. Again, it follows the same vein. Decent design because you can think about this a little bit in constructed, but you're going to figure out that it's just not playable. Banana Buffoon, 3 mana 2/2 Battlecry, add 2 bananas to your hand. Now this card, I don't think is an arena fodder card. I think this is a constructed card in some applications. I have tried my hardest to get Mukla of the Veil to work in different decks because the bananas can be valuable and synergistic with a lot of different archetypes. The 6 mana 5/5, however, was pretty much bad always, where this is less of a commitment. You just need to pay 3 for a 2/2, get those 2 bananas. Remember, the bananas have a lot of synergies with cards like Auctioneer, Dragon Soul, Antonidas, Quest Mage, just a lot of things you can do with 1 mana spells. And remember, 1 mana spells go to 0 with both Sorcerer's Apprentice and Radiant Elemental. And when you go from 1 to 0, that is a big deal. So cool card here. I do think this pops up in a lot of different places. Drakari Trickster is a 3-mana 3/4 with the battle cry. Give each player a copy of a random card from their opponent's deck. So basically, you get one of your opponent's cards, they get one of your cards. Now, if you're something like Warrior and you have, armor synergy cards like Shield Slam, maybe you could sort of get them with that. This is a 3-mana 3/4 draw card, so you have to look at it at least a little bit, right, in decks that care about hand size. Now, if you're playing a bunch of stuff that your opponent probably can't use, maybe you take a look at this. Maybe it fits into like a zoo deck. Although, what happens is when you sort of give your opponent your own cards, decks tend to counter themselves. Like control decks, they have these like huge endgame bombs that they don't really want to have to deal with. And aggro decks just have cheap cards, which can, sort of counter aggro if you have extra cards like Firefly to throw onto the board. Aggro decks don't really want to see you do that. So it's interesting design, and any deck that cares about hand size might take a look at this. Any deck that sort of fills its deck with sort of unoptimized linear cards, like if you're building towards one strategy, you give your opponent a part of that strategy, well, it might not do anything at all, right? Ornery Tortoise, 3-mana 3/5 beast with the battle cry. Deal 5 damage to your hero. Interesting design here. You're basically getting an extra health and the beast tag for 5 damage to your face. Your life total is a resource technically, and there are some situations where this is good. If you follow this up with a Hound Master, that seems like a nice play. The problem with this card, I think, is exactly Tar Creeper has sort of the same stats on defense, and this guy doesn't really want to attack into a Tar Creeper. So if you were playing a aggressive matchup, aggressive mirror, you play the Tortoise, they played the Tar Creeper. You did 5 to yourself, or basically the same card in practice. The Beast Tag does matter again for Houndmaster. And this card you can compare to Pit Lord kinda, but not really. This is neutral. Pit Lord isn't a Warlock only card. And Pit Lord is a 4-drop. This is a 3-drop. 4-drops already get a spike in stats. So getting the sort of spike on turn 3 is a bigger deal. And interesting card here. I can't say it's unplayable because, again, your life total is a resource. And if your deck is aggressive enough, then maybe take a look at this. Again, I don't think it matches up well exactly right now because of our Creeper. Spirit of the Lynx. It is a 3-mana spirit and is, of course, stealth for 1 turn and an 0/3. This one says, when you summon a beast, give it +1/+1. Notably, it's a summon and not play. So the big combo with this will be Unleash the Hounds. Unfortunately, this isn't cheaper, so you can't combo it on the same turn as often as you would like to. You're sort of setting this up for subsequent turns. You play this, in the next turn you could Unleash the Hounds for a lot of value. Maybe you saved your Spring Paw for, again, more value. After you play Halaziel the Lynx and you fill your hand with 1/1 Lynx Rush minions, this could be a decent play for the late game. You could set this up on your Emerald Spellstone, technically. If you play this on 3, you play 2 secrets on 4, and then on turn 5, you get 4 4/4s. This can set up a Spellstone. You get 4 4/4s. It's a little bit awkward on the mana because you're playing a secret on 2. You're losing a mana by playing a secret on 3, and you're losing a mana by playing the Lynx on 4. And then on turn 5, you get 4 4/4s, which at that point might be enough to win the game. This does scale pretty good with taunts. You might have to look at a card like Stegodon. You play this on 3, you play the Stegodon on 4, you make a 3/7 taunt, and then maybe you play something like Witchwood Grizzly the following turn, right, to protect this. More likely scenario, you're playing this and then you're setting up an Unleash the Hounds, or maybe you saved your Spring Paw, or maybe you play the Halaziel the Lynx, and then you have a bunch of 1/1 Rush minions that you can combo this with in the late game. So it does have a few different synergies, and the synergies are decently strong enough. Maybe you play something more fun like Witch's Cauldron, which I tend to do a lot instead of this. So interesting design, and it has a lot of applications. Might not be worth a spot in your deck. Headhunter's Hatchet, 2 mana, 2 attack, 2 durability. Battlecry, if you control a beast, gain 1 durability. So this is another way to activate the Strategist on curve, although I think Candle Shot is just better. This blocks your Prince Kelly Seth. If you're doing Death Rattle Hunter, you'd rather have Candle Shot, and it doesn't have the 3 attack like Eaglehorn Bow does, which is a big downside. So I do think this is a little bit unoptimal as a weapon. I think you run Candle Shot, Eaglehorn Bow, Prince Kelly Seth, instead of bothering with the Headhunter's Hatchet. Dragon Roar, 2-mana warrior spell. Add 2 random dragons to your hand. Notably random and not from your deck. I think this is a small net positive that they are random. Now, you're not getting the exact dragons that you put in your deck, but you don't have to worry about said dragons not being left in your deck maybe near the end of the game. This is exactly the kind of early game, quote, dragon card that Warrior would rather play over Fairy Dragon for Dragon in the hand buffs. You play this on 2. Yeah, you could have played the Fairy Dragon on 2, but you don't really want to be playing minions. You'd rather just get card advantage, set up your Brawls and your Reckless Flurries, among other things, Warpath, etc. So yeah, I think this is exactly the kind of card that Control Warriors want to play, as it is card advantage. Notably, this is even, so a strike against the Baku Control Dragon list, and this is a point for the sort of non-Baku decks. Flash of Light is 2 mana, 4 health, and draw card, so pretty versatile card here. I think it is power creep over Holy Light. I don't think you would ever play Holy Light over Flash of Light. I did recently play Holy Light in a deck on purpose in the Crystal Giants Paladin deck. It was a combo with Kangor in the late game to gain 12, or we use it to heal our Giants that we played as early as turn 3. Now, if you heal a Giants with 4, it's not as good as healing it with 6, but I think the card here is worth it. So any deck that looks at Holy Light, not many of them, would definitely play this. This might get played in combo decks just because it's, you know, close enough to shield block that it will see some play. Stolen Steel, 2 mana rogue spell here. Discover a weapon from another class. Woo, cool here. Very cool card. Nice little test Greymane card for the fun decks. You could also try to get the Twig of the World Tree legendary and try to ramp yourself up, because you can always hero power and rogue to destroy your tree, get the death rattle, and go right to 10 mana. So cool card here. Probably not a super constructed playable card, but definitely a fun deck. Fun card for test Greymane decks at the very least. Akanai Phantasm, 2 mana, 3/2 with the battle cry. This turn, your healing effects deal damage instead. So we have the sort of Lab Recruiter gang up treatment here. We get the Embrace the Darkness on the 3/2 body for 2. I think that overall improves the card over Embrace, although Embrace does have spell synergies with Shadow Visions, cards like Radiant Elemental, etc. So while the Embrace the Darkness will be maybe more of a combo card in Wild, I think this is a better card overall, especially in Standard. Having the option to play this on turn 2 could be powerful. If it goes unanswered, your hero power becomes a removal spell, gives you something to do in a possible control deck in the early to mid game turns. This also combos with Circle Heal or Big AoE. Now your guy doesn't live like the Akanai would, but it's just redundancy, and it's pretty good redundancy because, again, the worst case scenario, you play this as a 2-drop, and the likely scenario, you play it as a 4-drop that can deal 2 damage. Booty Bay Bookie, 2 mana, 3/3 with the battle cry. Give your opponent a coin. Not a good card at all. This card gets a little bit interesting at 3/4. I do think it is not good at 3/4. Once you get to 4/4, though, then you have to stop and think about this, because you might actually be getting a turn worth of tempo with a 2 mana 4/4. At 3/3, it doesn't kill Flame Imp. Again, if it was 3/4, at least it kills Flame Imp and survives. This thing is terrible. Cheaty Ankle Biter, 2 mana, 2/1 with Lifesteal and Battlecry, deal 1 damage. So I think you would look at this exactly in sort of Happy Ghoul Zoo decks, because the only way to activate Happy Ghoul as early as turn 2 is in Warlock. You have both Cobalt Librarian and Flame Imp. So that's kind of a curve, right? You go turn 1 Flame Imp, turn 2 Cheaty Ankle Biter, maybe you kill something, which would be amazing, and then you play Happy Ghoul for 0. So that's a pretty quick start. Now you can do this already with the 1-drop Voodoo Doctor, but this is just more choices for that Happy Ghoul Zoo list. Dozing Marksman, 2 mana, 0/4. It has 4 attack, wild damage. So this really only works with 2 exact cards. I think Blood Razor and what's it called? The new one, Overlord's Whip. It's a little bit awkwardly costed in the sense that you play the more expensive weapon first, and then you play this later. And at that point in the game, you know, is the 4/3 really worth saving a mana on? I don't think so. So I think this card is pretty bad. Scarab Egg, 2 mana, 0/2. Death Rattle, summon 3 1/1 Scarabs. Might be close to a neutral Warlock card here. Synergizes with all the Devour cards. Works with a new Grim Rally. Might also be a Paladin card. The Scarabs are good with both Shrink Ray and Sunkeeper Terram. And the egg itself is good with both Shrink Ray and Sunkeeper Terram. Any deck running Witch's Cauldron can take a look at this. You got to figure out a way to break it, of course, obviously. Shield Breaker, 2 mana, 2/1 with the battle cry. Silence an enemy minion, but it has to have Taunt. So we have a discounted owl here. A lot of things kind of wrong with this. Number one, at 2 mana, you're blocking yourself from playing Prince Kaliseth. And because you can't target maybe the best death rattle in the format, which is Carnivorous Cube, that's a big downside. The other problem is in Baku decks. You cannot play this in Baku. You still have to just play the owl. So while this could be good in the right situation, I think it kind of loses a lot of the battles to just the one-costed more owl. Again, being able to target the cube, being able to be played in Baku decks, and being able to also play Prince Kaliseth in non-Baku decks. Spell Zerker, 2 mana, 2/3, but when it's damaged, it gets +2 spell power. Wow. So ever since Prince Kaliseth was printed, I think Blizzard has purposely given us poor and few options at 2-drop. And with this card and Shark Fin Fan at 2, these are definitely the best neutral 2-drops we've had in a very long time. And this card definitely sees play in both Mage and maybe Warlock. Warlock, it combos with the File, much like a Tainted Zealot with a bigger body. In Mage, you just have a lot of spells that care about spell damage. The new AoE card comes to mind for sure. You can also just ping this in Mage anytime you want. So Cobalt, it's almost exactly Evolved Cobalt with the upside of being a 2 mana 2/3, right? Because you can make this a 4 mana 2/2, same as Evolved Cobalt, which did see play. Blood Claw, 1 mana weapon and Paladin, 2 attack, 2 durability, deal 5 damage to your hero. So we're trying to unlock the Heal Paladin or Healadin synergies that Blizzard is pushing very hard. This competes with Light's Justice at 1 mana to do kind of the same thing. Make sure your hero is actually damaged so you can get your heal card bonuses or your Spellstone upgrades. And is this better than Light's Justice? Maybe, maybe not. It does kill Flame Imp on turn 1, which is important. You are taking 8 damage to do so. But it does technically do what Light's Justice can't do in that situation. Light's Justice has better Furnace Fire Colossus synergy in the late game, technically, which is something I like to do a lot. So yeah, we will experiment with this, and Light's Justice, it's possible you just want both this and Light's Justice to sort of guarantee on turn 1 you can take some face damage. Serrated Tooth, 1 mana, 1 attack, 3 durable weapon, death rattle, give your minions rush. So like Candle Shot before it, I do see the value in it. I'm just not sure it is worth a card slot in your deck. Candle Shot turned out to be worth a card slot in your deck because it's just very versatile at what it does. Not taking face damage and comboing with Hunter's Mark turned out to be pretty amazing. This card here, I think, bumps into both Baku and your just regular hero power too often. Devastate, 1 mana warrior spell, deal 4 damage to a damaged minion. So another take on Execute here. Baku warriors get access to yet another quote Execute card. Ironically, I think this is actually better in just regular warrior because it teams up with both Warpath and Bloodrazor more efficiently. The Beast Within, 1 mana, hunter spell at epic, give a friendly beast +1/+1, then it attacks a random enemy minion. So very interesting design here. We can confirm that when you play this on a beast and it attacks, it doesn't use the minion's attack for its turn. Now, if you just summon that minion, it can't attack again because it normally couldn't attack. But if you had a minion on the board, you play this on it already, you would technically possibly be able to hit the minion with the spell and then either go face or hit another minion. Kind of giving your minion Wind Fury-esque of an ability for just 1 mana. So it's cheaper than Wind Fury. It gives your a minion +1/+1, which Wind Fury doesn't, but it can only target a beast. So this is interesting because it can kill spirits. The spirits hide away, and this is a way to kill stealth minions, so it has that application. The other application to Hunter is Cave Hydra. You play this on 4 mana. You deal 3 damage to a random thing, and then it cleaves for 3. Now, that could go wrong. You could hit the minion on the side and then only hit for 2 minions, or you could get lucky and hit in the middle and cleave, maybe a whole Spellstone or something like that. But that would be 2 cards. And so, yeah, it's a little bit interesting in niche situations to kill spirits. Ondasta combo at 10 mana. This could be a thing, but then you kind of need 2 beasts in your hand to get the full value out of the Ondasta. Could be a thing. I don't think it is a constructed card, but it is a cool card to experiment with for sure. Gurbashi Offering is a 1 mana O2 at the start of your turn. Destroy this and gain 8 armor. So this card is terrible. It's only possibly good on exactly turn 1, and outside of that, barely good at all because you just wasted a card to get no board control. And Doomsayer is just much better at all points in the game. If you play this a Doomsayer early, your opponent gets sort of time walked. If you play the Doomsayer late, they have to attack the Doomsayer probably, and at that point you're gaining the 7 health, which is comparable to 8 armor. So just Doomsayer is better than this. Helpless Hatchling is a 1-mana 1/1 beast. Somehow this is not a dragon. I think Blizzard failed on the design part of this at least a little bit, because that is obviously a little dragon whelp in the picture, and then they're calling the dragon a beast. So I guess dragons have to graduate to the beast tag once they get old enough or something. I don't know. Maybe I can't figure out why this is a beast, not a dragon. Maybe because of Dragon's Roar, they didn't want to sort of make you get a 1/1 possibility. That must be the reason. Exactly, Dragon's Roar, right? And this does also, not being a dragon, make any sort of Bone Drake kind of card much better if you didn't randomly get a 1-mana 1/1. So I guess all things considered, good job making this not a dragon, Blizzard. So the Death Rattle, reduce the cost of a beast in your hand by 1. So what are you doing with this? On turn 1, the thing I can think about is you play this turn 1, and then it dies, and then you have turn 2 Vicious Fledgling, maybe? I don't know. Like, it's definitely a possible card in either Hunter or Warlock, just because Hunter can make use of the beast tag. Warlock can make use of, well, they don't care if they're playing a 1-mana 1/1 if it gets some value, because they can draw cards at will. And now that Hunter can draw cards at will a little bit to some extent too, maybe it gets used there. Making something Odasta cheaper is very powerful. So cool card. Not sure it's completely constructed playable, but I mean, it's not completely terrible, because again, you're kind of getting, as long as you hit the Death Rattle on something, it's getting a little bit of value, right? A little bit of an innervate type card here. Warbringer, 1-mana 2/1 Shaman minion. Battlecry, you play 2 spells this turn, deal 2 damage. So the Haunting Visions card in Shaman, again, keeps getting better and better. And again, that's the main application with this. You play the Haunting Visions, you play the spell you're going to play anyway. And then if you have this in your hand still, well, maybe you kill something on the board. Because this is statted at a 1-mana 2/1, which is by no means completely terrible, this might only see place in a deck that doesn't mind playing a 1-mana 2/1. Maybe a deck that is trying to burn your opponent's face with Totemic Smashes and Lightning Bolts. And this can go face as well, so you can go Lightning Bolt, Warbringer your opponent for extra burst. And I do think this card is playable. It's just a little bit awkward that even though the 1-mana 2/1 isn't completely terrible, it's only really going to be wanted to be played in a sort of facey type of a deck. Pounce, 0 mana, give your hero 2 attack for this turn. So Druid gets its own version of Backstab. Obviously not as good as Backstab, but I think it's just close enough to Backstab to where this sees lots of play, even outside the new Druid synergies that they have with when your hero power kills a minion with the Spirit and the Gronk. Gronk gets much better with the existence of this card, because you can sort of you do your Gronk turn much quicker. When I originally revealed Gronk, I didn't actually understand what was going on. I thought the Gronk could attack again if your hero killed something, because of the way it was kind of worded. It said it or something like that. Anyway, this Gronk is obviously better than I thought, and Gronk is obviously better with the existence of exactly Pounce, because you can sort of kill as many 1/1s as you can when you play Gronk and Pounce. This card gets played, again, outside of the synergies with the kill a minion stuff going on, just because it is close enough to Backstab. You act as a Backstab. It plays well with Auctioneer, obviously. It plays well with Wild Growth, because on turn 2, you can still play your Wild Growth and play the Pounce. So that is it for my Rastakhan's Rumble set review, guys. If you agree or disagree with anything I've said, please make sure to comment below. Let me know what you guys think. And these videos do take a lot of time, so I appreciate anyone who's made it through my rambling for, I guess, 2 hours at this point, and hope to hear from you guys in the comments. We will be excited to play the new cards, and we will be brainstorming on stream starting next week. Thanks for making it to the end of the video, guys. I have links here for more content. And if you would like to see the channel grow, please click that subscribe button in the middle. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.